This has been a very interesting hearing. Mr. Waltz, welcome to Oversight. Yes, it usually gets like this. Look, let's be very clear. This isn't about Hunter Biden's white privilege. It's about Hunter Biden's Democrat privilege. Because Donald Trump Jr. showed up for 5 congressional subpoenas. There was never this circus where he was subpoenaed by House Democrats and he showed up on the Senate side or showed up at the White House to answer in some fake, phony, lame press conference, not actually going to the House and doing what he was compelled by a subpoena to do. Hunter Biden did that.
What you just witnessed wasn't just a heated exchange. It was a sharp illustration of how two completely different political philosophies collide in real time. Moments like this highlight a broader debate unfolding across the country. On one side, figures like Byron Donalds argue that laws and standards should apply evenly, regardless of party affiliation. On the other, leaders such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez approach issues through a lens they believe centers fairness and political context, often challenging the motivations behind investigations and oversight efforts. This kind of clash has become increasingly common in Washington. Supporters of Donalds see him as direct and grounded in procedural arguments. Supporters of Ocasio-Cortez see her as focused on systemic concerns and broader implications. The difference in tone and framing is striking. One emphasizes legal process and consistency, the other highlights power dynamics and political intent. As we go through the full exchange, notice how each of them builds their case. One leans heavily on the mechanics of subpoenas and compliance. The other shifts attention toward committee structure, precedent, and political accountability. It's a revealing contrast in communication styles and priorities. Let's break down what was actually said and why it resonated so strongly with different audiences.
Look, let's be very clear. This isn't about Hunter Biden's white privilege. It's about Hunter Biden's Democrat privilege. Because Donald Trump Jr. showed up for 5 congressional subpoenas. There was never this circus where he was subpoenaed by House Democrats and he showed up on the Senate side or showed up at the White House to answer in some fake, phony, lame press conference, not actually going to the House and doing what he was compelled by a subpoena to do. Hunter Biden did that. And then he has the unmitigated gall to show up here when we know that we're going through actually the legislation for contempt with, by the way, Mr. Chairman, we should actually get to the legislation of contempt. The speechifying is great, but let's do our business, members. He has the gall to come here, show up, and then when the Democrats are saying, hey, he wants to speak, he leaves. This is a joke. This is a farce. The man has been subpoenaed by Congress. Oh, and by the way, the January 6th committee, Mr. Raskin, which you did sit on, by the way, that was not a normally ordered committee of Congress because Nancy Pelosi did not want the Republican members that then Leader McCarthy put up.
According to the courts, it was.
I my time, sir.
Will you yield for a correction?
I was respectful of your time. I didn't say anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward with our business. He should be held in contempt. There was a subpoena. He did not answer it. Any other American will be held in contempt by Congress. Any other. This is Democrat privilege of the highest order. Let's do our jobs. I yield.
Gentleman yields. Chair now recognize Ms. Ocasio-Cortez from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to address briefly, quickly, that moment about privilege and all of this that we're seeing here. It was a very beautiful speech. As also the Republican side had mentioned in their many raisings of the January 6th committee, that it's not just Hunter Biden, you, me, any individual subject to equal treatment under the law, to be held up to accountability under the law, but it is also these committees and this committee that is subject to oversight and law. We must comply with the law here as well. Now, I may be one of the very few people that actually believes in Congress, in this country, but I do, and many of us do here. And we have an obligation to engage in good faith participation to execute and comply with the subpoena. The chairman said in front of the country several times to Hunter Biden, you can show up here in front of the world, in front of the public. Hunter Biden took him up on that offer. He said, I will show up in public. I will show up in public. He showed up here today. He showed up here in the past. And Mr. Chairman, I know you do your best with what you've got, but you've got members here that have submitted falsified evidence to the record. You have members here that have submitted and mischaracterized closed door hearings, and people want to say back and forth at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what party it's happened from. You've got members who've engaged in revenge porn in this committee. So it is understandable why Hunter Biden would want to testify in front of the public for the American people to be able to witness that testimony for themselves. You've got members who've defied subpoenas. You've got members who we are 1 year into the term asking what the rules are at the beginning of the committee. The book was given to us on day one. And so what we should do is allow the man to testify. I believe in the power of the Oversight Committee. Frankly, I believe in it regardless of whether Republicans or Democrats have the chair, because I believe that this committee should have the power of oversight. And we cannot do that on a partisan basis. And so for that, I implore this committee to allow Hunter Biden to testify publicly. I implore and I ask for that to happen. And we cannot do that by getting engaged in this back and forth on a defiance of a subpoena. Let him comply. Let him do it today. Let him do it tomorrow. But let the man do it. And with that, I yield back to the ranking member.
Thank you, Ms. Ocasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. First, it was said in this hearing, Mr. Chairman, about you specifically, that you repeatedly said you would give Mr. Biden any opportunity. He could choose which one to come and speak in front of this committee. He could do it by deposition. He could do it by open hearing. It was up to him. The truth of the matter, though, is members, is that the chairman's words are not binding. Like no other member's words of Congress are really not binding. The binding article.
Point of order. Does the chairman agree with that? Point of order. Does the chairman agree?
Are you going to restore my time?
Point of order. Just point of order.
Okay.
Does the chairman agree that the chairman's words are not binding on the committee?
That's not a point of order. It has nothing to do with the order of this hearing. Thank you. Can I go back to 4 minutes and 34 seconds? That's where I was before I was interrupted by Mr. Raskin.
Yes, reset the
Thank
clock.
you. Thank you. What is binding is the actual written document, the written language in the subpoena, because a subpoena from this committee is also signed off on by the clerk of the House. That is the binding document that matters here. That is what governs. That's number one. Number two, that was said in this hearing. It was said that our witnesses said that there was no basis for an impeachment. But remember, members on the Democrat side of the aisle, what was said by Mr. Turley at the time was that there was plenty of evidence for the continuation of an impeachment inquiry. And the purpose of that hearing was the relevance basis for an impeachment inquiry. The House has now voted for an impeachment inquiry. And one of the first things that the House did after the vote of an impeachment inquiry was to subpoena Hunter Biden to appear. Hunter Biden has evaded that subpoena. So flagrantly did he evade it that he decided to show up at the Senate side to give a press conference, and Eric Swalwell, a member of the House, helped him get that time on the Senate side to give a press conference. That's a flagrant violation of a congressional subpoena. Secondarily, he has the gall to show up here when we're actually discussing contempt. And he didn't stay. He was sitting right over there. He's not here now. He said he wants to talk. He could have stayed through the whole proceeding. He chose to leave. That's his business. But he was subpoenaed to come here. Back in December, he chose not to of his own volition. He's in violation of that subpoena. A subpoena that was executed with the signature of the clerk of the House of Representatives. That is the document that is binding. That's what we work off of. Mr. Chairman, I actually want to submit for the record an article from The Hill written by Jonathan Turley, and it is titled Eric Swalwell and the Politics of Contempt.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I'm glad something got admitted to the record. Last, a couple other points. One quick point I want to make, and this is in reference to the minorities' report about this $7.8 million. I want the minority to understand one very important distinction between Presidents Biden and President Trump. President Trump has an international real estate portfolio that he has amassed over decades. I'm quite sure if you go back through all of the hotel receipts before he was president of the United States, that you had foreign dignitaries staying at Trump hotels all across the world.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'm not going to yield, Mr. Raskin. I'm making a point because they're actually very nice hotels. They look good. People like staying there. President Trump was not running the Trump Organization when he was president of the United States. To my recollection, Eric Trump, the president's son, was actually running the Trump Organization when President Trump was president of the United States. So if he had a portfolio of hotels and people choose, through Expedia, through Kayak, through hotels.com, if they choose to go and stay there, how is that the president being in violation of what the emoluments clause? That's what you're citing? Stop. Ladies and gentlemen, America, this is ridiculous. The Biden family has no business. They've never had a business except for politics. And the one thing that the Oversight Committee, in conjunction with the Ways and Means Committee and in conjunction with the Judiciary Committee, has always been able to demonstrate is that they shook down foreign nations for millions, 26 million at the latest count and growing, millions. And there was never any business entity involved except public corruption and a pay-for-play scheme. We have questions for Hunter Biden. We issued a subpoena for him to answer said questions. He ignored a congressional subpoena as a private citizen. There are many attorneys on the other side of the aisle.
Starting with Donald's opening remarks, he immediately reframed the issue as one of unequal standards. His central claim was that enforcement appears inconsistent depending on political alignment. He pointed to past subpoena compliance involving members of the Trump family to argue that the current situation should be treated similarly. For his supporters, that argument underscored what they view as a double standard. Ocasio-Cortez responded by broadening the discussion. Rather than focusing narrowly on the subpoena itself, she referenced committee decisions and structural changes within Congress. Her argument suggested that context matters, that oversight actions don't occur in isolation but within a larger political environment. Critics saw this as deflection. Her supporters saw it as necessary context. A key legal distinction came up regarding whether public comments from a committee chair could alter or supersede a formally issued subpoena. Procedurally, subpoenas are binding documents issued through formal processes. Informal statements do not automatically replace that legal obligation. That technical point became central to Donald's rebuttal. The conversation then expanded further, touching on allegations, media narratives, and the broader political climate. As often happens in high-profile hearings, the exchange moved beyond a single procedural question and became symbolic of larger frustrations on both sides. What stood out most was the contrast in delivery. Donald's kept returning to the narrow legal issue. Was there a subpoena? Was it complied with? Ocasio-Cortez continued to situate the issue within a bigger political framework. Viewers largely interpreted the debate through whichever lens they already trusted.
With Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, you've heard of her. Okay. And she literally believes that we can print whatever we want. It doesn't matter how much we borrow. It doesn't matter how much we spend. But she can believe all that while she drives her nice little Tesla and lives in one of the most expensive apartments in Washington, D.C. You see, the left loves to deride capitalism, but they actually love capitalism. They love what it creates for them. But they want you and they want me and they want every hardworking American to bend the knee. But America has woken up and we have realized that we're not going down a socialist road and we're going to fight them.
Beyond this specific exchange, the disagreement reflects a deeper divide over fiscal policy, institutional trust, and the role of government. Ocasio-Cortez has long advocated for expansive federal programs and structural reform, arguing that economic systems can and should be redesigned to address inequality. Critics argue that such policies risk long-term financial instability. Supporters argue they are necessary to modernize the economy. Donald's, by contrast, consistently emphasizes limited government, fiscal restraint, and strict adherence to procedural norms. His supporters see him as steady and focused on accountability. His critics believe he oversimplifies complex political realities. Moments like this resonate because they feel larger than the individuals involved. They symbolize two competing visions of governance, one prioritizing structural reform and broader social goals, the other emphasizing enforcement consistency and traditional institutional boundaries. Whether viewers saw the exchange as a decisive defense of procedural integrity or as an incomplete discussion missing broader context largely depended on their existing political perspective. What's undeniable is that debates like this will continue shaping public discourse. The conversation over fairness, accountability, and governance isn't going away. It's evolving in real time inside committee rooms, interviews, and public forums across the country.